أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس من شر الوسواس الخناس الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس من الجنة والناس صدق الله العلي العظيم. I have just recited chapter 113 Al-Falaq and chapter 114 of the Holy Quran An-Nās. These are the last two chapters of the Holy Quran. They are very much interlinked and intertwined. So I'm going to read to you the translation and followed by the commentary by Dr. Basharat Ahmad Sahib, Hazrat Dr. Basharat Ahmad Sahib. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the Dawn from the evil of that which He has created and from the evil of intense darkness when it comes and from the evil of those who cast evil suggestions, infirm resolutions and from the evil of the envier when he envies. Chapter 113 Al-Falaq. Now chapter Nās 114. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I seek refuge in the Lord of men, the King of men, the God of men, from the evil of the whisperings of the slinking devil, who whispers into the hearts of men from among the jinn and men. Now, doing these two chapters together, it might take a little bit longer, but I think I will be able to finish it within 30 minutes, inshallah. So, Surah Falaq is one of the last two chapters of the Holy Quran, called Al-Mu'awwazatayn, as these start with the word A'udhu, which means I seek refuge. In this chapter, Allah's protection or refuge has been sought against all sorts of evils, which incite others to cause injury to us. Whereas in Surah Nās, which is the last chapter of the Holy Quran, protection has been sought against all such evil inclinations through which we cause harm or injury to others. Thus, these two chapters are so comprehensive that no evil or evil inclination has been left out from which refuge has not been sought in Allah. It is written in the Hadith that on the revelation of these two chapters, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam became very happy, and he forsook other prayers seeking Allah's protection and adopted these instead on daily basis. The word Falaq in the first verse of the chapter means cleaving or splitting. This word has been used at two other places in the Quran. In 696, the words are Falikul Habbi wan Nawa, the one who causes the grain and date stones to germinate or split. Then in the verse 97 of the same surah, the words are Falikul Isba, the cleaver of the daybreak. Here, Allah's attribute Falik has been mentioned in the beginning. This word carries two meanings. Firstly, the being who brings out the dawn from the darkness of the night, and secondly, the one who splits the hard date stone and brings out the young shoot. In other words, it refers to the all-pervasive power of Allah, which extends from the tiny creation of the young shoot to the maneuvering of the huge planets, such as the sun and the moon, in the universe. By using his divine attribute Al-Falaq, the idea is to impress upon the mind of the believer that it is Allah alone who can protect us from evil. The other word which needs explaining is nafasa, which means to blow, To blow into one's heart means to put a thing or an idea into one's heart. Similarly, to blow over a knot, as is mentioned in verse 4, nafasatil fil uqad, means to insinuate evil suggestions into the resolution of men or into the management of their affairs. As it does happen, when a person undertakes some good work, there are people who themselves do nothing, but would always discourage him by dissuading him or by weakening his determination by overemphasizing unfounded fears. Unfortunately, some of the commentators of the Holy Quran confined themselves to the literal meaning of the word blowing into the knots, and this gave rise to the baseless story that some Jewish woman wove a magic spell over the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam with the effect that he became forgetful. Na'uzubillah. The Holy Quran rejects all such stories and narration. The fact is that it was the disbelievers who accused the Holy Prophet of being a magician, as we find in the Quran, قَالَ الْكَافِرُونَ إِنَّ هَذَا لَسَاحِرٌ مُبِينٌ. The disbelievers say, this is surely a manifest enchanter. Chapter 10 verse 2. As has already been mentioned, these two chapters cover all sorts of evils, and that is why most devout Muslims, before going to bed, recite them to seek Allah's protection. Now, we come to the second verse. From the evil of that which Allah has created. Now, we should bear in mind that man by and large depends on the environment for the maintenance of his very existence. It is our common experience that a human being faces two kinds of dangers while living on this earth. Firstly, dangers which are obvious and known, such as beasts, snakes, robbers, etc. Secondly, things which, although essential and beneficial for the maintenance of human life, yet at times take a dangerous turn, such as air, water, fire, food, etc. For instance, fire is the primary source of energy and heat for human beings, but at times it blazes uncontrollably, thus destroying property and killing people. Similarly, water is the main source of life and vegetation, but sometimes it turns into devastating floods, causing widespread havoc and destruction. Then comes man's own creations, such as the motor car, the aeroplane, and other means of transport. These have made man's traveling faster and more comfortable, but sometimes when an accident occurs, it causes injury and death. Again, one eats delicious food for enjoyment, but at times it causes serious illness and food poisoning. So in this verse, protection is sought in Allah from evils which are known and from the evil consequences of things which Allah has created for the maintenance and benefit of human beings, but which at times, due to accidents or mishandling by human beings themselves, become harmful and dangerous. And the third verse, and from the evil of intense darkness, when it comes. Here, protection is sought against the evils of darkness, whether it is the darkness of night or the darkness of ignorance. We find that mugging, theft, robbery, murder, and other crimes are committed mostly in the darkness of the night. Similarly, social evils such as drinking, dancing parties, and all sorts of licentious and promiscuous activities are carried out during the night. Sometimes even useful things become dangerous in the dark when one cannot see them and can get oneself injured, such as a staircase or any other thing that which one may come across in darkness. So darkness in many ways becomes a source of danger or injury, and even useful things can cause harm in the dark when cannot see them properly. Similarly, lack of knowledge or correct information may lead one to failure or loss, such as in business. In other words, lack of knowledge not only keeps one away from the right path, but also causes one to waste one's capabilities and may land one into harmful and dangerous situation. The fourth verse, and from the evil of those who cast evil suggestions in firm resolutions, emphasizes the need for one's determination to carry on some task to its successful end. It is at this stage that some people try to dissuade one from some good work by making evil suggestions or by overemphasizing the dangers and the supposedly unfortunate consequences which may result in case one fails to accomplish the undertaking. And the last verse of this chapter, and from the evil of the envier when he envies. This teaches us a very important prayer to save us from the evil of the envier when he envies. It is at this stage that jealous people become more active in trying to strike the final blow and destroy the work which they could not stop otherwise by insinuation or by evil suggestion. So one really needs Allah's help and protection at this final stage, because one is desperate to complete the work, as any obstacle or hindrance at this stage will certainly upset one very much. So, in this chapter, as explained before, a prayer has been taught to seek protection in Allah against all such evils which come in the way of a believer in his struggle in life. The first verse of the chapter also emphasizes a subtle truth about Allah's protection for human struggle in life. The divine attribute Falaq denotes that as Allah cleaves the daybreak out of the darkness of the night and brings young shoots out of the hard date stone, so too He will bring a believer out of darkness of indecision, confusion and difficulties, and definitely guide and help him to final success. A Muslim believes Allah to be all-powerful and overall controller of things, and so to Him alone we should address our supplications. This is why the Holy Quran starts with the prayer, Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Thee alone do we serve, and Thee alone do we beseech for help. Thus the start made by seeking Allah's blessings and help has been beautifully ended with the prayer, seeking Allah's protection for all we do in our struggle through the arduous journey of life. Now we come on to An-Nās, and I'll read the translation again. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, say, I seek refuge in the Lord of men, the King of men, the God of men, from the evil of the whisperings of the slinking devil, who whispers into the hearts of men from among the jinn and the men. In the chapter Al-Falaq, the protection of Allah was sought against all kinds of evils which are created by others. But in this chapter, the protection of Allah is being sought against evil suggestions and temptations which crop up in man's heart and causes harm to others. Here, the protection has been implored from three beings: the Lord of men, the King of men, the God of men. Rabb or Lord is the being who nourishes man by degrees till he attains perfection. Malik or King is the being whose rules and laws command obedience. And Allah or God is the supreme being who is to be worshipped, loved, and to be one's ultimate objective. So if we ponder over human nature and its behavior, we see that man is apt to seek protection or help from three beings. Firstly, he seeks protection of the being who provides him with nourishment and care. Take the example of a child. Whenever any trouble or harm is caused to him, he spontaneously goes to his parents for help and guidance, for they have been showering nourishment and care over him, and to him they are the best of helpers. Secondly, he seeks the protection or help of the king or ruler if there is a fear of being robbed or if there exists a danger of injury from evil characters. He naturally seeks the help of the police or a government agency. And thirdly, man seeks help from his God, as he is the best and last resort for him. And when neither his nourisher, nor his parents, or nor any government agency can save him, then the only source of help is the being whom he worships. Man knows well, or at least realizes, that when all worldly sources fail to provide any help or protection, it is Allah alone who can provide help or come to his rescue. Thus all three sources from whom he happens to seek protection or help have been combined in the one being of Allah. Almighty Allah is the being who is the one source who can provide help and protection in the three situations mentioned earlier. Thus, Allah is that being who combines himself all the perfect attributes and has the power and authority to provide help and protection in all sorts of situations, including the three referred in this chapter. Allah is the real Lord and Nourisher. Any person who nourishes someone and brings him up, in fact, demonstrates Allah's attributes of Rabubiyyat, as it is He who has instilled love and sympathy in the hearts of men. Parental love and affection are also manifestations of Allah's attribute of Rabb or Nourisher. Once a woman with her two daughters went to the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to get some food as they were hungry. Hazrat Aisha Raziyallahu anha, wife of the Holy Prophet, gave her one date, as at that time she had nothing else to give. The woman divided the date into two pieces and gave one piece to each of her two daughters. She herself remained hungry. Later Hazrat Aisha disclosed to the Holy Prophet how the mother had showed love for her daughters. The Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and I quote, "I swear by the being in whose hands my life lies in, that Allah's love for His creatures is far greater than which the mother showed to her daughters." The being who inculcated love in the hearts of a mother must indeed possess far greater love for His servants. Allah is the real Lord and Nourisher of men. Similarly, true rulership belongs to Allah. Allah grants worldly kingdoms and He takes them away when He wills. In the same way, the only being worthy of being worshipped and adored is Allah, and He is the being who creates everything, nourishes and makes everything perfect. He alone has control and authority over the huge planets in the universe and even the tiny atoms on this earth. So He alone deserves to be worshipped as the Lord and Nourisher of men. Thus, Almighty Allah is the being who is the real Nourisher, the real King, and the real being that deserves to be worshipped. And can there be a better or greater being than Allah, from whom help and protection can be sought? So, in this chapter, protection has been sought against the slinking devil who makes evil suggestions and arouses evil inclinations in the hearts of men. Khannas, or the slinking devil, is the one who makes evil suggestion and then withdraws. This is why he is described in the Quran as yuwaswisu fi sudur an-Nās, as one who whispers evil suggestions secretly into the hearts of man. And the Khannas is of two kinds, minal jinnati wan nas, out of jinn and men. So the jinn is that kind of creature who is hidden from the human eye. Anything which is hidden is called jinn in Arabic. People who live in mountains or jungles are also called jinn because they are generally not seen by men. Similarly, germs of diseases are also called jinn because they cannot be observed by the naked eye except with the help of a microscope. In the same way, the creature which motivates human passions in the heart of men is here called jinn because it is not visible as such. It may be pointed out that man combines in himself animal and angelic passions. Animal passions are love, anger, etc. These are the passions that motivate human actions. On the other hand, intelligence, conscience and high morals create in him the awareness to differentiate between right and wrong and make him cognizant of accountability for his actions in this life. The hidden element that generates human activities in man through animal passions is called jinn, and the one which regulates and prevents human activities from exceeding the limits and deviating from the right path through noble conscience and high morals is called angel. in the terminology of the Quran. But when a jinn causes human activities to deviate or exceed the limits, then he becomes a shaitan. The word shaitan comes from two sources: shayata, which means to destroy, and shatana, which means to become distant or remote. When a person exceeds the limits or deviates from the right path, he takes himself away from the mercy of Allah. In other words, when the jinn, which motivates evil human activities, makes man exceed the limits, he becomes shaitan. But when the same jinn, through noble conscience and high morals, keeps human activities under control, then he becomes the one who submits to the commandment of Allah and thus becomes a Muslim. It is in this sense that when asked once, the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "My shaitan has become a Muslim." In this chapter, it has been explained that people who are called khannas in the Quran are of two kinds. One kind act stealthily like jinns and create doubt and suspicion in the hearts of people. In this case, such a jinn is called khannas or shaitan. The other kind consists of those people who instigate others to do evil, and such people have also been called khannas or shayateen in the Quran. The Holy Quran tells us that on the day of resurrection, shaitan will try to clear his position before Allah by saying that it is man who was responsible for his evil deeds and that he or shaitan only gave suggestions. Thus, whether khannas acts stealthily like a jinn or is from that group of mankind who create doubts and suspicions in the heart of others, it is the duty of a true Muslim to seek Allah's help and protection against the evil prompting of the khannas, so that he may be saved from causing harm to himself or to others. That is why the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said that a Muslim is a person from whose tongue and hands others are safe. In other words, a Muslim should be careful about his responsibilities when he is acting as someone's nourisher, ruler, and object of love. When discharging his duties, he should not be influenced by the doubts or evil suggestions of the khannas. In the explanation of these attributes of Allah as Rabb or nourisher, Malik or king, and Ilah or the perfect object of worship and adoration, there is a deeper meaning. Khannas creates suspicion in three ways. Sometimes a person regards someone besides Allah as his real nourisher. Sometimes a person accepts the supremacy of or obeys others to an extent that he virtually bows to them as he should bow to Allah. And sometimes man loves other human beings and himself to such a degree that he forsakes Allah. In other words, he is so engrossed in the love of himself, his children, his reputation, and his worldly gains that he forgets Allah. Thus, he regards the rights and obligations of others and causes harm to them in the scramble to gain something for himself. But when a person seeks the help and protection of his Lord, King, and God, he in fact saves himself from the evil consequences of evil suggestions and suspicion of devilish people who dissuade a person in the three ways mentioned earlier. So man should accept the Lordship of Allah, follow His commandments, and under no circumstances should he give himself wholly to the worldly objectives. Instead, Allah should become the main objective of his love and adoration. Classical commentators of the Holy Quran have mentioned a fine point with regards to the use of the word An-Nās on 5 occasions in this chapter. According to them, on each occasion the word An-Nās conveys a different connotation. In Rabb An-Nās, it refers to one's childhood, at which stage Allah's blessings and grace concerning one's nourishment are very evident. In Malik An-Nās, reference has been made to one's maturity and youth, when it is essential for one to obey the laws and regulation of the government for one's progress. In Ilah An-Nās, reference has been made to one's old age, when gradually one realizes that Allah alone is one's Lord and Nourisher. In Sūrahs Al-Nās, the word An-Nās refers to those righteous people or righteous persons in whose hearts the devil tries to create suspicion and doubts, and thus tries to make them deviate from the path of righteousness. And lastly, in Minal Jinnati wan Nās, reference has been made to those evil-minded people who weaken other people's determination to go along the path of righteousness by creating suspicion and doubt in their mind. Now, think carefully over this. If an individual seeks the help and the protection of Allah, who is the Nourisher, the King and the Lord of the worlds, against the devil, then can such a person do harm in any way to himself or his fellow beings, or entertain any doubt about or be disobedient in any way to Allah? In fact, a person who seeks Allah's blessings and protection through the prayers mentioned in these two chapters of the Holy Quran, the chapter 113 and 114, called Mu'awwazatan, lives and dies in Islam and is safe from all sorts of troubles and tribulations. He lives a life that is peaceful for himself and for his fellow human beings. He is in an abode of peace and is a perfect Muslim in all respects. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quranil Azim wa nafana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala jawadun kareemun malikum barraufur rahim.